The Presidential Election Petition Court had already ruled that Peter will be the candidate of the Labour Party in the last presidential election, had lost in the election, and of course affirmed the presidency of Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress. Now Peter will be head to the Supreme Court to seek a redress.
Yesterday, 6th of September 2023, the Presidential Election Petition Court, PEPC, finally delivered its long-awaited judgments on petitions challenging the outcome of the presidential election held on 25th of February 2023. This judgment was delivered within the statutory time frame under the extant status. We acknowledge the court's contributions to due process and seeming attempt to strengthen our democracy. As petitioners in this case, we respect the views and ruling of the court, but we disagree with the court's reasoning and conclusions in the judgment it delivered. It is my intention as the presidential candidate and the intention of Labour Party to challenge this judgment by way of appeal immediately as allowed by the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria. The PEPC has rendered its judgment, but that esteemed body is not the final arbiter. The responsibility now falls on the Supreme Court. I do know that the judgment is not conterminous with justice. I implore Nigerians to remain focused, steadfast, and peaceful, and to abide by the rule of law and understand this matter has not reached its logical conclusion. Our legal team has already received our firm instruction to file an appeal against the decision. I shall not relent in quest for justice, not necessarily for myself, but for indeed for our teeming supporters all over Nigeria, whose mandate to us at the post was regrettably truncated by INEC. The strength and value of our democracy reside on solid national institutions and our confidence in them. Electoral litigations will almost be unnecessary and non-existent if the Independent National Electoral Commission discharges its statutory functions creditably, transparently, and with tenable fairness. When that body fails, as it did recently, thus subverting the will of Nigerian voters, the recourse to judiciary becomes imperative, as is now the case. I thank every Nigerian who has supported our cause and campaign for a new Nigeria, characterized by fairness, equity, justice, rule of law, peace, prosperity, inclusiveness, sustainable growth and development. A new Nigeria is possible and achievable. I especially thank our legal team, the Labour Party and the obedient family, and all those who showed up daily during our court trials. God bless you all, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
So the truth is, the fact that Peter Obi and the Labour Party had gone to court is interesting because, it's a keenly contested election that produced President Bola Tinubu over some month ago now. And of course, we've been having series of conversations around the credibility of that election, considering the fact that INEC had deployed new devices that were used during the election, and a number of people have what we call a level of trust in the process. Now, the crux of the conversation is that we cannot claim that the elections were credible at the state level, and then claim also that the elections were not credible at the federal level. That's a question of integrity. Because the elections were held, we all accept, many of us all accepted, the number of people accepted the results that came from the House of Representatives election, the Senate, and of course the governorship elections. Then we now discredit the presidential election. That calls for questioning. Now, Peter Obi and his Labour Party people, we may have all concluded that maybe they have lost. I mean, they lost elections, and that maybe it should go back to the drawing board, and the people of the party and the youth, of course, who are supporting him should also strategize to see how they can come back stronger, maybe in another 4 years or 8 years, depending on the interest of the candidate himself contesting. I think one thing that is important that we need to take out of this conversation is the fact that there is a level of consciousness, a new level of consciousness that has already emanated from what we used to have and how it used to be. So technically, when we say that Peter Obi lost that election, we could also say that somehow Peter Obi won the election, because the election took a new dimension because of the involvement of Peter Obi, because of the involvement of the youth, population, who were massively supporting Peter Obi. In fact, a number of people, before the election, were saying that the youth only argue on social media. There is no elections are not concluded, are not conducted on social media. But on the day of the election, they saw the difference in mobilization, the difference in the outpouring of people who came to the street and came to the polling booths, to vote. Some of them even stayed, to the end of the election to until the results were read, and a number of other things like that happened. There's something that's important that we need to understand in that election. The fact that numbers didn't align, there is a similarity in the number of states won. For instance, the APC won 12 states, the PDP won 12 states, the Labour Party also won 12 states. That's like the three major parties dividing the country into three, and taking each portion of it. Now, the difference in numbers for the APC is 8.7 million, for the PDP 6.9, for Labour 6.1. That's the closest margin of election that we have ever had, in Nigeria. That all the while we used to have, two parties ahead of the remaining maybe 16 or 18, and we never really had this close gap, between presidential candidates of different parties. For instance, in 2019, APC won 19 states, while PDP won 18 states. APC had 15 million votes, PDP had 11 million votes. The remaining others were just behind them, but now in this particular one, the closest to the first three is NNPP, and NNPP only won one state with 1.4 million votes. Now, the truth is, after elections, people will come out to say, "Oh, this is the way it went. This is the way it didn't go." Oftentimes, these opinions does not really align. Remember, I said in the beginning that if we agree that the election that produced our senators, our members of the House of Representatives, members of the House of Assembly, governors, if we all agree that the method that INEC used, the beavers and all of those things, don't also forget that INEC failed, to transmit election results the day the elections were happening, which is another conversation entirely. But if we agree that those elections were credible, even though, of course, and now a number of them have been overturned, but if we claim that those elections were credible, that also means that we need to agree that the presidential election itself is also credible, because we cannot discredit five products of one company to say that the company is irrelevant, and then accept one product. Like, so this is rejecting five other products, accepting five other products rather, and rejecting one product of the same organization with the same process. We cannot do that. Now, so with the fact that Peter Obi and and his party, the Labour Party, had gone to the Supreme Court, I honestly don't think that there's any other thing that will come out, from the Supreme Court, because I listened to Peter Obi's speech, when he was saying that he had gone to court, and I was waiting to hear maybe grounds on which he thinks that the tribunal did not favor his party. Will they go to Supreme Court with another set of evidence? That's the question that everybody needs to ask. I think that a lot of improvements have been made in that election. I think that Peter Obi had technically won, won by bringing in new set of people into the electoral process, bringing in new, movement that we call the wave into our elections. Though may have lost the, getting on the seat of the president, and I think that the idea should be about strategizing for the election, other than spending millions and time, in court waiting for